Hi, it is great to be with you for this 20th anniversary edition of the Sounds of the Mountains Storytelling Festival. I'm so glad we're able to be together, at least virtually, to help mark this milestone year. It was a Saturday in early March, a few years ago, one of those Saturdays in early March, like we often have here in Birmingham. Maybe you have them where you live too. One of those days where the sun has finally come out after a long, bleak, miserable February, and you cannot bear to be indoors one more minute. I had work to do, emails, files to look after, but my laptop would let me take all of that outside. And so I gathered up my computer and glasses and pens and papers and headed out to work at the small black wrought iron table there on my back porch. First, though, first, I just had to put everything down on the table and walk through the yard. Oh, just feel that sun on my face and neck and shoulders. Everything's so gorgeous. The pear trees, the plum trees profusely in bloom, the tulip magnolia blossoms. Oh my goodness, the blue ice cypress. It looks like it grew 3 feet over the winter. I remember how tiny it was when it first went in the ground years ago. A housewarming gift from my friend Linda, who knew when I moved into this house I needed trees more than I needed a toaster. In fact, as I look around the yard, I realize how many things there are gifts from people. There's the coral azalea from my friend Marie, the angel face rose from Carl, all the Japanese maples that my friend David grafted and grew and gave to me, helped me plant, dug big holes, brought in huge sacks of topsoil and mulch. There's the curved concrete bench my mother gave me when I first moved into this house. I can see her sitting on that bench when she would come to visit me. She'd sit there smiling up at that bird that she swore sang a song sounded just like it was calling my dad's name. Peter, 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 Peter. I hear hammering next door. It's my neighbor, Jason. He's building a fence around his backyard, a fence made of those long wooden planks rounded on top. They look like giant popsicle sticks. When he started the project weeks ago, I asked him, "Are you walling things in or walling things out?" "Oh, just trying to keep the kids and dogs from running off." He has one more side to finish, the side that divides his yard from mine. Adam is helping him. Adam is another neighbor. He lives further down the street. Adam and Jason do a lot together. Well, they have a lot in common. They're both in their 30s. They're both dads. Jason has 3 children. Adam has 2. In fact, they're not just both dads. They're both dads of newborns. Allison is 3 months old. Little baby Wren just showed up 2 weeks ago. I head over their way. "Hey, how are you guys doing? Are those little ones letting you get any sleep?" "Oh, not so much," Jason says. "I've been up since 4 this morning." "4," Adam says. "You lucky dog. Wren started crying at 2 a.m. I never was able to go back to sleep." "So," I say to him, "between the two of you, you don't have 9 solid hours of sleep and you're out here with chainsaws and power tools?" They laugh. Jason says, "We're fueled by Mountain Dew and sunshine." Lauren, Jason's wife, comes out the back door of their house carrying 3-month-old baby Allison in her arms. Their 2 little boys, aged 4 and 6, carve figure 8s in and around her legs before they run up to the back of the yard to visit the chicken coop with its 2 chickens that they've named Monkey and Juice. Tiny white cloth diapers flutter on a clothesline that stands next to a rainwater collection tank that feeds into a raised vegetable bed. You can still see the green tops of carrots and kale from last winter's vegetable garden. Lauren makes her own yogurt. April, Adam's wife and mother of their 2 children, April does not make her own yogurt. April relies on Huggies and Happy Meals and hopes for the best. April is trudging up the hill on the other side of my house, trying to keep up with their 2-year-old daughter, Lark. That's her name, Lark. Lark is running up the hill, scaring the cat, bending down to sniff a tulip that has no smell. Then she plops down right in the middle of the street so she can examine an excellent rock she found there. April has 2-week-old baby Ren with her. Ren, that's his name. She has the baby in a snuggly so she can hold him close. I haven't seen the newborn yet, so she brings him over for me to admire. That little face is so red and fierce, those eyes squinted shut. He looks like a miniature Mr. Magoo. And as I look at that tiny, determined face, I think this child might see the 22nd century. He'd be in his 80s when the calendar flips over to the year 2100. He'll probably make it. And it's so strange to think that I am looking at a child who will look at a world that I will never see. April takes off running, trying to intercept Lark, who has just turned down the alleyway, chasing a bee. I sit down at the table, flip open the laptop. The cat jumps in my lap, insists on having his head scratched, demands the undivided attention he so richly deserves. Then he hops over to the other chair, circles the green and white striped cushion twice. Then he flops down, curls up, a furry gray igloo that rises and falls as he drifts off to sleep. I hear children laughing and calling out to each other as they ride their bikes up and down the street, their high voices harmonizing with the notes of Scott Joplin's The Entertainer. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, played over and over by the ice cream truck that roams through the neighborhood. I hear Adam and Jason next door. This next one needs to be 5 feet 10 inches. That last one fit. Oh, not so much. Darn, it reminds me of that dumb joke. The guy says, oh, this stupid board. I keep cutting it and cutting it. It's still too short. They laugh. The Mountain Dew is kicking in. Ordinarily, Lance would be helping them with the fence project. Lance is the 30-something single guy who lives on the other side of me. But today, Lance is busy. Lance is getting ready for a cookout he's having later that evening in his backyard for some friends. And so Lance is marinating. Oh, Lance is a wonderful cook. His vanity license plate says chutney. And so Lance is busy cleaning his house, setting up folding tables and chairs in his backyard. And while he works, he's listening to The Doors' greatest hits. A 30-something guy listening to a rock band from the 60s. Come on, baby, light my fire. He has got it cranked up really loud so he can hear it outside, and I can hear it too. It comes pouring out through his screen door, through the sunshine, across the street, over to my back porch. And that husky Jim Morrison voice and familiar keyboard riff. Take me back across time, back across geography, back to another Saturday morning, a gray, drizzly September Saturday morning. I'm in my bedroom in my parents' house in Reading, Pennsylvania. I am 19 years old and I love the Doors. I am ready to light somebody's fire. I'm ready to have my fire lit too. Come on, baby, light my fire. The song swirls out of the stereo as I sing along and stuff the last few items into the small black suitcase that will accompany me for the next 12 months. It's the September after the summer, after my sophomore year of college, and my college roommate, Julie McSweeney, and I are heading off to Europe for a year. We'd been students at George Washington University in downtown Washington, D.C., and that sophomore year, that freshman year, had been so crazy. March on Washington, protests against the Vietnam War, Cambodia, tear gas in the streets, student strikes. It had been so confusing, not just politically, but academically too. In just 4 semesters between the two of us, Julie and I had burned through 6 different majors. I started out in political science, moved on to pre-med, ended up in theater and drama. Julie went from mathematics to sociology to modern dance. We both had to admit we did not have a clue what we were doing. So we decided we'd stop, take a break, travel, see the world, find ourselves, figure it out along the way, armed with 2 semesters of French, 2 semesters of German, and 2 19-year-olds' sense of invincibility. We were heading off to Europe for a year, following a man who had seduced us both, a man who made promises we both believed, a man named Arthur. Arthur Frommer, who told us we could do it on $5 a day. I do not remember the conversation where I told my mother about my plan. I don't remember telling her that I was quitting school. Julie and I were going to fly to Frankfurt, Germany, buy a used VW Beetle, and drive around Europe for a year. I don't remember telling her that, but I must have. I do remember that I never had that conversation with my dad. My mother cleared the whole thing with him. He and I never once spoke about where I was going, what I was doing, until that gray, drizzly September Saturday. Come on, baby, light my fire. The doors revolved through the final chorus of that song as I switched off the stereo, shut the lid, picked up the suitcase, took it downstairs. My dad slung the suitcase into the trunk of the gray Chevy Caprice Classic, and off we went, my mom, my dad, and me, heading down I-95 to Dulles International Airport, where I would meet up with Julie, and off we would go. We were all 3 of us pretty quiet on that 3-hour trip. Even my mother. My mother always talked on car trips. She'd read out the billboards if she couldn't think of something else to say, but even she was quiet. We got to about 20 miles outside the airport, and my dad caught my eye in the rearview mirror. He said, "Schluggo, you think you're going over there and you're going to find a better way to live. But I think what you're going to find is that everything you really want is in your own backyard." And that's all he said. He looked away, asked my mom to check the exit number. 15 minutes later, we were at the terminal. There was Julie. The adventure began. What was he talking about? There were worlds to see, people to meet, adventures to be had, life to be lived. I didn't know what he meant that day. I didn't know what he meant that year. I didn't know what he meant for years to come as my life followed its little path, twisted, unfolded. I don't think I really understood what he meant until that warm, sunny March Saturday morning, sitting there on my back porch, the sun shining, the birds chirping, the flowers blooming, the neighbors hammering, the kids laughing, the cat purring, the computer humming, the grill smoking. I have a sweet house, a safe place to live. I have work I love to do, and people like you who let me do it. I'm surrounded by gifts that remind me there are people in this world who somehow love me. I have good neighbors who protect their families and feed their friends and believe enough in this tired old world to bring determined little babies into it. I have a cat who helps me keep things in perspective, reminds me daily I am not the center of the universe. Home, work, family, friends, hope that the world will be okay, that there are people coming along behind me who will, one way or another, try to figure it out. I finally get it. My dad was right. Everything I really want is in my own backyard.
Our festival sponsors made this year's festival possible, and your donations will help Camp Bethel survive continued pandemic-related losses. So, thank you. Give by using the donor buttons or links on this page. Also, you can tip the tellers too.
We hope the festival will be back home in person next year and need your help in getting the camp ready to reopen as soon as possible for summer camps, guest groups, and special events like the festival. Please click on the link below and make your contribution toward the work, the fun, and the fellowship that find a home at Camp Bethel. Thanks for watching, and thank you for your gift.